I don't think the game's over.
Not done. We don't want to give up.
I don't think the game's over until...
Not done until the clock says 0. We don't want to give up till the clock says 0.
I don't think the game's over until triple zeros on the clock, triple zeros on the clock, triple zeros on the clock.
Welcome in to Triple Zeros. I'm your host, Josh Buckhalter. Great show lined up for you. Gonna get right into it, man. Not a lot of fat to chew this time. We're gonna jump right into everything. Of course, we start off this time of the year, as we do, NFL Week 7 storylines. First up, the biggest one, obviously, Patrick Mahomes and his dislocated kneecap. Reports are that he will miss 3 games, optimistically. But looking at their schedule, the Chiefs actually have over their next 5 games, and it's a reason why it extends out to 5, the outlook. They have Green Bay, Minnesota. Both of those are in Arrowhead. They travel to Tennessee. They travel to the Chargers, and then they go on their bye week. So the interesting thing here will be to see whether they opt to actually give him those extra couple of weeks to rest up and get healthy, knowing that they have the bye coming up as well. Probably what's going to play into that is the performance of Matt Moore over this little chunk of time, whether or not he can sustain the offense. They won their game on Thursday night against the Broncos, 30-6. Moore didn't really do much, but he was staked to a pretty good lead before Mahomes went out. People are questioning Andy Reid on the call, the sneak. It's a quarterback sneak. We see him every week, at least once a week. So I'm not sure why everybody's dogging Andy Reid as if he's supposed to not call that play in that situation. It's one of the dumbest things I've heard, and that's not to offend anybody or come at anybody. It's a really, really weird one, in my opinion, just because it's a quarterback sneak. It's such a routine play, and it was such a freak accident. And then like, oh, he was already injured, so why would you risk it? But he didn't injure his ankle any further. He injured his knee, something completely different. So that's just one of the things that I thought was weird about it to come out of it. But what does it do to him in the MVP race long term? Right now, he could be considered the leader or at least the co-leader. 2,180 yards, 65% completion, 15 touchdowns, 1 pick. The time miss is going to hurt because he's already had his lead tightened by a couple of guys we'll talk about later. But what does it do to the team? What does it do to him? Right now, they are 5-2. Just told you the next 5. Green Bay, Minnesota, at Tennessee, at the Chargers, and then their bye week. Do they bring him back in those 3 weeks, or do they give him the extra couple to try to rest up a little bit more? I think, again, a lot of it will depend on how healthy or how Matt Moore performs during that time. Another interesting thing, the Rams and Falcons. Now, this is the Rams who are 3-3 and the Falcons who are 1-5. That's not why they're interesting, though. Jalen Ramsey actually was traded this week. The Rams got their lockdown corner. They traded Marcus Peters and ended up trading to the Ravens, and then traded with the Jacksonville Jaguars for disgruntled cornerback Jalen Ramsey. He finally got his wish. They got their wish too. 2 first-rounders. Now it had surfaced that they had received an offer from Baltimore earlier for 2 first-rounders, which is what their asking price was, and they turned it down. Well, they got the Rams to do it, and the Rams got Baltimore got the Rams cornerback Marcus Peters, which many thought was for pennies on the dollar. Come to find out they did it, and they ended up getting Jalen Ramsey in return. Still wonder if they could have gotten a little bit more for Peters, but I guess if you're not going to keep him around, then so be it. Remember, the Rams still have Aqib Talib waiting to come back from injury. So they got Jalen Ramsey, and then a funny happening. Jalen Ramsey, before he got traded from the Jaguars, was out missing with a bad back. He'd had a lot of run-ins with management there, namely Tom Coughlin, and missed a game with the birth of his child, and then another game with the back injury, and was still dealing with the back injury. But then, lo and behold, he's out. He's out practicing, repping the West Side with my Savage. And then you got Leonard Fournette, not too pleased with what he sees on the Twitters, a little upset. Ramsey back injury mysteriously gets better when he gets traded to greener pastures, as it were. Interesting how that tends to happen. But I'll be interested to see how he performs. Marcus Peters too, but we'll talk about that in a moment. But just the Jalen Ramsey thing, I guess what happened with them, in my opinion, with the Baltimore situation, is that they just don't want to trade him to anybody in the AFC. and had to face him more times than they would, than necessary. Got him to the NFC West. He went to go to a contender. I can't say that he should be upset about it in any way, shape, or form. And the Jaguars made out like bandits. They got 2 first-round picks for a cornerback that's going to need to be paid a hefty sum of money on a team that's already up against them in terms of cap room. So it'll be interesting to watch what the Jaguars do with those picks, and then what the Rams do now with their cap situation going forward with all the superstar players that they have. They still have a young team, so their window is probably not closing. Although the trade was interesting because it didn't address anything about their offensive line play or the running back health in the room. So that was interesting. They went for the cornerback, the splashy type of name. They also went and got Dante Fowler last year. Remember that they kind of needed the pass rusher at that point. So this is a little bit different here. We'll see what the impact is, especially when they traded Marcus Peters. So they still only have one healthy top cornerback right now. But Ramsey is a talent, and who knows, maybe he'll play lights out and really just lock down that half of the field now that he's healthy, or now that he's happy in a better situation. The next game that caught my eye was the Texans and at the Colts. This because Deshaun Watson now has to move up a spot in the MVP race, second or third, depending on how you got things shaken out. The Texans are 4-2, Colts are 3-2. Watson, like I said, could be second in the MVP race. He right now has 1,644 yards, 69% completion, which is eighth in the league, 69.7, 12 touchdowns and 3 picks. But what's more is that he also has 164 yards on the ground and 5 touchdowns. Now, Indy is 4th in rushing yards per game. Houston is 5th in rushing yards per game. So this game could be won on the ground. It seems like it has shootout potential, but it could very easily turn into a game where it's just Frank Gore and Marlon Mack. Mostly because you also have Houston allowing the 8th most sacks, so they might want to protect Deshaun Watson in a game against the Colts, who might not be as prepared to go high-powered shootout like we saw with Kansas City. So this game could be, like I said, run more on the ground. Houston is 10th in passing yards per game, but Indianapolis is only 27th, so that just reinforces what I was saying, where we can see this become a battle of the running backs to try to preserve Deshaun Watson behind that offensive line that we know is still rickety despite the addition of Larry Tunsil not too long ago. You got Marlon Mack, who's 7th in rushing yards. Carlos Hyde is 11th, but the old man in Hyde is having a resurgence in Houston and having a really good season. It really went off last week against Kansas City. And then you have on their pass defensive side. Now, this is where it gets interesting because I just told you that Indianapolis is 27th against the pass, is 27th in passing yards, but Houston is 24th in passing yards allowed. And we all know that they're both of these run defenses are pretty stout. So could we see Indianapolis adopt a more error-friendly, pass-friendly offense in this game because of the stoutness of the Houston run defense? And then conversely, do we see the Texans go more ground game to protect Deshaun Watson and control and just kind of get through this week against a division opponent and try to maintain their hold on the top of the division? This game ostensibly is for first place in the AFC South. Neither one of these teams really gets much pressure. Houston's 13th in sacks per game. Indianapolis is 15th. But again, when it's a divisional opponent, wacky things happen. So I could see both of these teams just decide, you know what, let's ground and pound, get this game, get out of here healthy, and see what we can do. In that case, I think I might still have to go with the Texans just because Deshaun Watson can make that play on not necessarily short notice, but can make the play when called upon. Jacoby Brissett has been pretty good, though, so I don't want to doubt him per se, but that's just my opinion. I think it might be the Colts. I think I said on What the Steven, if you didn't catch that appearance, that I thought the Colts would take it with the home field advantage and how their defense is playing lately. But I thinking about it and how the Texans have been playing, how balanced their offense has been, how good Carlos Hyde has been for them, I think they might just still have enough star power to get over the hump against a tough Indianapolis Colts team. And by the way, I forgot to drop the handles. Please, if you want to follow me, please do. At Josh G. Buck on Twitter. Facebook is at Jukes and Jumps. That's where you'll find the Triple Zeros podcast, part of the Jukes and Jumps network. JukesandJumps.wordpress.com is the website. And please, as always, guys, like, subscribe, and share the videos. We're going to move on to the next game. That would be the Cardinals at the Giants. This one, you have the first 2 picks of the 2019 NFL draft, first two quarterbacks taken in the 2019 NFL draft. Kyler Murray of the Arizona Cardinals, got to get this out, and Daniel Jones of the New York Giants. First overall for Kyler, sixth overall for Jones. Murray's got 1,664 yards, completing 64% of his passes, just over, with 7 touchdowns and 4 picks. But he's also got 238 rushing yards to go along with that. Jones is 2-2 as a starter. He's got 921 yards, 60% completion. He's a little bit of a risk taker. He's got 5 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. He's also got 2 rushing touchdowns. He's brought some balance, a little bit more excitement to the Giants' offense. Jones has, but he is a risk taker. He has some throws into coverage a lot. I guess that's one of the benefits of playing with the freedom, knowing that there's nobody really behind you that's a threat to actually take your job. You like to see a little bit from Kyler, but that offense down in Arizona, Cliff Kingsbury's offense, has kind of matured a little bit as time has gone on. So they'll probably be able to do some things. It'll be exciting to watch both of them. Neither one of their defenses are going to have been able to stop much of anything. So expect maybe not a lot of points, but a fair amount of points in this game, in a battle of 2 quarterbacks who are trying to show why they're the better one in the class. You always love to see those battles because they tend to bring out the best in both players, just because they want to outshine the other guy. And then you got the Chargers and the Titans. And this one, it's really not interesting for any other purpose than this is the first game where Marcus Mariota has been benched and Ryan Tannehill will be making the start for the Tennessee Titans. Just to see it'll be interesting to see how this plays out, because I'm not sure that, and I said this before, that Tannehill's actually better than Mariota, but at the very least, he's different, I guess. And that's about all that they could really ask for, I guess, at this point. You got Chargers are 2-4, Tennessee's 2-4. Neither one of them seem to have the year that they thought they would have. But again, the only reason why you're really interested in this game or why you're paying attention to it at all is because of Mariota for Tannehill, and to see if that dynamic, the shift in that one, has changed anything for them. I doubt it will, but it'll be interesting if it does. And I could see the defense playing a little bit tougher. And the Chargers are having one of those AFC versions of the Atlanta Falcons season, but we'll talk about that in a second too. We already covered them, but yeah, it's just weird. So I could see this being a game where the Chargers get back on track, or I could also see this game being a game where the Titans, seeing what's happened with the quarterback situation, step up and take it to the Chargers, who are still banged up on defense. I think they're expected to get Russell Okung back, and they'll have Melvin Gordon back. Melvin Gordon will be another week return from his holdout, so that could be a thing that sways it in their favor. But other than that, I think the Titans at home might be riled up a little bit with the changing quarterback and excited to play and show that they still are worthy of their starting jobs, because when the quarterback gets benched, that means anybody can get benched. So we'll see how that plays out. The next game on the list, Saints at my Bears. Saints are banged up, man. No Breeze, we already knew that, but they also will be without Alvin Kamara. They will be without their tight end, Jared Cook. And this is just a chance for the Bears to get back on track. They are also banged up now. Mitchell Trubisky is expected to return from a shoulder injury and a 2-week absence. They also have the bye week in there. But they're also missing Akeem Hicks right at the middle, and that's a big injury. Now, they should be getting Bilal Nichols back, and that'll help some. But it's going to have to be a bunch of guys stepping up, and that's especially going to be true on the corners with Kyle Fuller and Prince Amukamara with Michael Thomas. He's going to eat. They're going to try to give him the ball in every type of way. Teddy Bridgewater does not make many mistakes. So these guys are just going to have to be sounding their coverage and just not let the big play happen, not let the big run after catch happen, something that they've been known to have issues with. Amukamara with penalties and Kyle Fuller with getting eaten up on double moves and allowing a lot of catches to come his way with playing a lot of off coverage. Like I said, if the guys up front are going to have to get a lot more pressure. The Saints have a very good offensive line. They won't have Kamara, so that's one of the mismatches taken away. But don't sleep on Latavius Murray. He's been a very productive running back in this league. So it'll be interesting to see how the Bears handle with their injuries. Like I said, though, the Saints are banged up themselves. Even though they come into this game at 5-1, the Bears are 3-2. I believe the Bears are still favored in this one by about a field goal for the home field advantage. With all as banged up as the Saints are, the Bears need to take care of business, get a win, feel good about yourselves, and then try to keep that momentum going into the latter parts of the season. The next one is a game I spoke about a little bit earlier with my two favorites for MVP. Right now, the leader, Russell, the Ravens at the Seahawks. Right now, my MVP leader is Russell Wilson. Of the Seahawks, I think that Danger Russ is back and in full effect right now. We're seeing it, and we should really enjoy it. The Seahawks are 5-1 as well. The Ravens are 4-2. But Russ is, I told you this on the last episode, second in completion, eighth in yards, tied for second in touchdowns, second in yards per attempt, second in total QBR, sixth in sacks taken because he gets around in the pocket, and he leads the league in fourth quarter comebacks with 3. But my other favorite, and this is probably a dark horse because I know the popular vote right now, the talk is about Deshaun Watson, who I spoke about earlier, but I think Lamar Jackson needs to get more consideration for this. He's 8th in touchdowns, 12th in passing yards, 15th in completion percentage, 6th in total QBR, but he also has those 460 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. That puts him at the highest total yardage out of anybody of the young quarterbacks that you would think of, or the quarterbacks that you would think of, not necessarily young. That's whatever. People want to talk. There might be some conversation around Christian McCaffrey, but I don't think that he's really a serious. It's a quarterback's award. He'd have to do something really astronomical, and that'd be like crushing the 2,000-yard mark, 25 and 2,500 even, and plenty of touchdowns, which he could. But it's a quarterback's award to lose. And right now, I think with the Mahomes injury, it's Watson and Russell Wilson. Deshaun Watson, and Lamar Jackson, in my opinion. I know that's one that hasn't gotten a lot of fervor or a lot of fanfare behind it, but I think I might push that a little bit harder with how much he's meant to that team and how vastly improved that offense has been, and he has been as a passer in his second season. So, you know what? Russ is probably still the clubhouse leader, but I'm going to be silently beating the Lamar drum to get him some more love for MVP this season. I think he's having a really stellar year. That's just something to keep looking out for going forward. If they also have the debut of Marcus Peters for the Baltimore Ravens, they had a video of him walking in the practice. He didn't look too happy, but he probably was just game face and let's go get to work. You know, he's a tough guy. You know what I mean, on the corner out there. The game should be a good one though. It'll be an interesting one. It's probably a pick 'em with how good this. I hope it's a good quarterback duel. Could really go for that one right about now. But the next game that we're going to talk about, Eagles and Cowboys. A lot of trash talk going on. Eagles coach Doug Peterson. Both teams are 3-3. Eagles coach Doug Peterson, guaranteed to win. Cowboys defensive end DeMarcus Lawrence told him to come on down and come get it, basically. And then Lane Johnson, right tackle for the Eagles, responded, with just a lot of back and forth. Both of these teams need this victory. The Cowboys have lost 3 straight. Eagles have struggled to find themselves. The interesting part is that the Cowboys want to be a running team. Everybody, not a secret, Ezekiel Elliott. But he hasn't really had the season that many expected him to have coming in. The holdout probably had a lot to do with that. And also, the Eagles are a much stouter run defense. They are second in rushing yards allowed per game, but 29th against the pass, whereas Dallas is third in passing yards, and they are 7th in rushing yards. So really, Dallas can do whatever they want to do right now, and it seems obvious that they should attack the Eagles with their secondary. Now they will be activating Jalen Mills. I don't think he's returning for this game, but I believe that he's close to a return. Whatever the case may be, they don't have enough. We've seen, no matter who it is back there, to even if it is Mills, they don't. He couldn't be ready in 1 week or in one set of practices to come out and defend a Cowboys attack that should be able to get everybody back. Gallup should be healthier. Amari Cooper is expected to play, and they should still be able to get Elliott some run late in the game if they're able to go out there and attack him early. I think they should be aggressive as they have been. We've seen a little bit of a power struggle between Kellen Moore and Jason Garrett over play calling. At least the styles will suggest as much. And maybe they should just go back to letting Kellen Moore air it out a little bit early, and then Jason Garrett, when it's time, start grinding the clock out a little bit. Dallas is 13th in passing yards allowed. Philly is 16th in passing yards per game. They've got kind of a mediocre offense, though, because even though Dallas is 12th in rushing yards allowed, Philly is 14th in rushing yards per game. This could be a game where I think the Cowboys' home field advantage favors them, and it ends up getting them the victory, because I think just the Phillies' offense just hasn't been clicking. Of course, I say that, and that probably means that they're going to go out there and light the Cowboys up. But neither team has looked great this season, despite expectations coming into the year. So it'll be interesting to see who wins that game. That's pretty much a toss-up, though, between those two. I'm not sure that I can really pick a winner just offhand. It'll be fun to watch. That one and the Ravens, Seahawks, and, of course, the Bears and the Saints are the overall games. Texans, Colts, again, is not bad. And then the other ones are more storyline than full games. But the final storyline I want to talk about in the NFL is the Pats and the 49ers are more than likely going to remain undefeated after this weekend in the NFL. Neither team is playing anybody special. The 49ers are going to be taking on the Washington Redskins. It's going to be in Washington, but yeah, I think that's all you really need to know. They only had Josh Norman, which might actually help them because he's given up like 3 or more touchdowns this season. But the San Francisco 49ers, even though they do travel east, so maybe that has an impact on them. The Niners travel east to face the Redskins, and then on Monday Night Football, the Patriots will take on the New York Jets in New York. Now, they just got Sam Darnold back, did the Jets. Maybe that plays a part. I'm not sure. But the way the Patriots have been playing, specifically defensively, I'm not sure that the Jets are ready, even with Darnold, to take down the big bad brother in the AFC East. That'll be something to keep an eye on. But more than likely, both of these teams, the Niners and the Patriots, will end up leaving Week 7 in the NFL 7-0 for the Patriots and 6-0 for the San Francisco 49ers. I'm going to take a quick break. When I come back, we're going to address the NBA, some injury news in the NBA, and some more fallout with some more issues that we know just I told you wouldn't go away, and they're just getting worse the further things go. So be right back. Welcome back, Triple Zeros. Switching gears, talking about the NBA, and the first thing that we got to talk about, obviously, is the big news. Zion Williamson, first overall pick, projected Rookie of the Year for obvious reasons of the New Orleans Pelicans, set to miss weeks, not a week, not a game, obviously weeks with knee soreness, and this is the big fear for everybody is his injuries. As explosive he is at his size, how his body hold up. And he missed some time in the summer league already, and now he's going to miss the start of the season. This is just not a good look. The early talk is obviously he's going to have to lose weight. He's going to have to do this, he's going to have to do that. Let's see how long it takes him to come back, how he is when he comes back, and then decide. But if it becomes a problem, lower body injuries, especially with a guy whose game is based off his above the rim play. Now, he's more than just that, but he's going to have to develop those a lot quicker if he starts to lose athleticism at a quick rate. But again, this was the fear that I think everybody had when he came in. Hopefully he gets better soon, and it's not anything that's going to affect him long term. That's never what you want to wish on anybody. But I just can't stress enough how that's that other shoe. Every time he leaps, every time he went up and went to go boom on somebody, that was the other shoe that people were waiting for the Droppers to see what happens when he gets an injury. And now I guess we finally get to find out before anything even happens for real officially for him on the court. It's sad, but I don't know how to even approach it. Like, it's just one of those things. Like, it was a bad day for injuries. Mahomes and then the Zion Williamson both had the news breaking for Zion around on the same day on Thursday. Just tough, man. It was a rough thing. I want to talk about two teams though that I don't think I gave enough love to when I was discussing my tiers, which I'm going to redo, by the way, because I realized that I made a glaring omission. We'll cover that on Monday night's edition of Triple Zeros. But I want to talk about the Houston Rockets and the Indiana Pacers. Now, Russell Westbrook on the Rockets has not looked great this preseason, but I have high hopes for this backcourt. This is really what this pairing of teams that I want to talk about is really about, is the backcourts. That's what I really like. Westbrook is not shooting well, but if they operate the system with Westbrook as the point and let Harden play off of him a little bit more, maybe that smooths things out. Who knows? This was the fear about them, though, was how was it going to work with both of these guys trying to be the main scoring threat at all times. Whose team is it? This, that, and the third. I think they'll figure it out. It was preseason. It's tough to put too much weight into a veteran team because you know that a lot of veteran teams are out there trying stuff just because they know what they're going to be when the season starts. Younger teams you might want to pay a little bit more attention to what they're doing stylistically because that could be more telling than trying to get the young guys used to it. But older guys are what they are. And if anything that you see in the preseason could probably, if that seems maybe unnecessary or superfluous, could just be them trying something. Or Russell Westbrook's case could just be what he is. We know he's not the greatest of shooters, so that could just be what ends up being the case. But that's the team that I'm still excited for, just because I like those two together. Friends reunited on a new team, the Rockets, getting out of Oklahoma City and coming back together. I didn't think I would ever see Westbrook and Harden be the two, but that's cool that it is them two. And then going over to the East, the Pacers, I like Victor Oladipo and I like Malcolm Brogdon. Now, Oladipo is expected to be out till around New Year's. That sucks. No, flat out, that sucks. But when he's healthy, that's a strong, defensively sound backcourt that I think can thrive in the Eastern Conference. Hopefully, they can maintain their pace. See what I did there? Until he gets back. Their word is that they're looking to move Domantas Sabonis because they are far apart on contract talks. Maybe that brings in a secondary initiator to help facilitate the offense, to break down his man one-on-one when they need to go get a bucket. They don't have Darren Collison to do that anymore, and they have Malcolm Brogdon, but he's not that kind of a player. So yeah, who's going to carry the water until Oladipo gets back, and then when he gets back, they can still use another person. So maybe that a Sabonis trade or something like that gets it done. But those are that's like I said, when Oladipo and Brogdon are both healthy, that's a defensively sound, strong backcourt that can attack you from all three levels, and I'm excited to see what they can do as a person who follows the Bulls closely and has to watch the pace from a distance. I'm still thrilled to see what that backcourt can do when healthy with TJ Warren and with Miles Turner, and then whatever piece that they end up getting ultimately in any deal that might come from trading Domantas Sabonis. The other big news in the NBA, Pascal Siakam of the Toronto Raptors signed a 4-year, $130 million extension, max rookie extension. He will be there for quite some time, so it seems we already know money can be moved in the NBA if they wanted to. I did predict the Raptors to end up being a team that could be closer to being a seller at the trade deadline than being a team that's contending for a playoff spot. I know it's a harsh fall for a team that just won the NBA championship, but losing Kawhi Leonard for a full season, I think, is going to take a toll on them. We'll see if Siakam is take that another step. Most improved player in the league last year. If he does, then they'll be back in the playoffs. Not even if they do, I still think they'll be a lower seed. I think that's obvious. But good for him. Glad that he got the money, get paid, secure the bag. Again, I stand by my statement that I think we'll see them be closer to being sellers than they will be playoff contenders. That won't mean they won't be in the playoffs, but I think they'll be a lower tier team in the playoffs when it comes to be that time. It's just different when the guys like Kawhi Leonard and Danny Green aren't coming back. I know they had the great record. I just still feel like there's a big difference when you know that those guys are coming back and when they're not. And then lastly, the last thing that we got to talk about, man, is more NBA and China fallout. I told you about Adam Silver coming out and saying that China had demanded that the NBA fire Daryl Morey for his comments about China and what was being said. They claimed that they wouldn't do no such thing, and that this is Adam Silver, and that they told him that there wouldn't even be any repercussions whatsoever on Morey for his tweet, and that they support free speech. Now, the league has done a lot of, I don't want to say waffling, but they've been waffling, going back and forth on who it sounds as though they're supporting, and it seems like they are once again back on siding with Hong Kong, or at least on the side of Morey to say what he feels, which is the right stance. He does have the right to say whatever he wants to say. That's political. We're not going to get into politics of it. But what I think was interesting was Kyrie Irving's response, and it was along the lines of what I said, where he went a step further and didn't address Morey at all, but he said it along the lines where he was like, they have to handle what they can handle. They have to deal with their issues, Hong Kong and China, however they do. And that's not to be rude or anything. That's just to say that's what it is. That's what they have to deal with if they want to comment on it if that's something that people want to focus on. He said he feels like it's always the responsibility of us as people, as human beings, to uh, stand up for those that we feel, to stand up for the things that we feel that we believe in. And again, that was not mentioning Daryl Moore, but that's directly addressing Daryl Moore, in my opinion, and saying that, hey, he's letting you know that he feels like that's what he feels like. That's let's see if we can get some sound on this. So we see Kyrie there talking about uh, basically saying that he, like I said, he addressed that there are things that China and Hong Kong have to work out on their own, that he feels like if it's something you believe in, you have to stand up for, but that he also knows that there's a lot going on here that he probably should have his focus on. So it was a non-answer, but it was an answer, which is what I was basically saying that LeBron could have said in his. Now, LeBron says what he wants to say. That's not me telling anybody what to say, just that I knew the message would be misconstrued or be construed in the way that it was. And sure enough, it played out exactly like that. It sounded a little selfish and self-serving. And this one, Kyrie sounds more accepting to both sides, appealing to both sides. And it's interesting because, like I said, it's really a non-answer, but it's an answer because he's telling you, look, they got to fix it for themselves. We got stuff to work on here. He went into some other things, but that was the basic gist of it. And then what else is interesting is that China has since responded to Adam Silver's comments and said that they are upset that he claimed that they requested Moore to be fired and that they made no such request, and that he will get his or some, I'm paraphrasing here, eventually. Those are ominous words and an interesting threat. It's a weird place right now. The NBA and China basically have no more ties at this point in time. It'll be something to keep an eye on going forward. The way the global market is, we know that how much business is done between America and China as a whole. So cutting the NBA off is maybe the first step to that all falling apart. We know that there's a lot of political things going on otherwise. But it's just a wild story that when it first broke, I said it wouldn't be going away anytime soon, and it's proven to be just that, a lingerer. It's a lingerer, bro. It's going to be there for a while longer, too, until they finally get a resolution between the two sides as to what is and is not permissible, I guess, which is a weird thing to be talking about, but between the two when discussing one another. That's just the way it is, man. So be it. Until then, though, it'll be more of this back and forth, and we'll be asking players in the NBA how they feel about it. It is what it is, and hopefully those players pick their words wisely and they don't end up in any more trouble or any more conflict, because it's just really not a good look. That's going to do it for this episode of Triple Zeros. Catch me next recording. That one's going to be Monday night after Monday Night Football. We're going to try a little bit different here after Monday Night Football around midnight. So if you want to follow me, please do. Again, I'm at Twitter at Josh G. Buck. On Facebook, it's at Jukes and Jumps. If you want to email, please hit the email. If you want to submit a question or a comment or anything like that, jukesandjumps@gmail.com. Please read at jukesandjumps.wordpress.com. You can read my Bears coverage at Last Word on Pro Football, and you can read my Bulls coverage at Pippin 8 Easy. Anytime else, you can always find the podcast on YouTube or on Anchor or on Spotify, Google Podcasts, and many other websites. Check it out. Until then, I am your host, Josh G. Buck. Peace.